Hi, Sally Fairfax here with you this Monday afternoon. We're going to talk now about sugar dating. This is where an older man or woman spends large amounts of money on a younger person in exchange for their companionship. And it's more common than you might think. There are lots of websites advertising this kind of dating. And now two of the most popular sites have told the BBC that they're seeing a rise in registrations, with hundreds of thousands of British students signing up as a way of earning money to pay for their fees. Alice is in her 20s and she says she's received around £50,000 from her so-called sugar daddy.
I wasn't looking for anything in particular, but I wanted to find someone that could show me different aspects of life. So once I joined, I was going out to nice restaurants and travelling and going to seminars, which were quite interesting. It opened new doors career-wise for me and everything. It's just like any normal relationship now, just that I've got really good benefits. You know, if I need help and financial assistance, then he's completely 100% there for me.
Well, the relationship sometimes involves sex, but not always. Many sugar daddies and sugar mummies say they simply prefer the company of younger people and they're just looking for someone to take out on dates, who they can also show off to friends and colleagues. Robert is a sugar daddy in his 50s. He says he's spent hundreds of thousands of pounds showering gifts on girls he's met online.
I think there's three sort of overall types of girls who go into sugar dating. The first just want overall glamorous lifestyle benefits and improvement. They're very much the material girl. Then you've got a whole generation of new young female students who recognise the challenges of existing on a university budget. And thirdly, I think now more than ever is I've met a lot of young women who have an entrepreneurial spirit. They've seen a lot of that kind of Instagram lifestyle with younger people starting their own businesses.
Well, I've been speaking today to Sasha Rakoff, who is from the organisation Not Buying It. We'll hear more about her in a second. Sugar baby websites insist that they're simply dating services, who suggest that matches based on compatibility. They say if members reach an agreement between themselves regarding payment for sexual activity, then that's a matter for them, but not a criminal offence. But critics say sugar dating is simply a form of posh prostitution. They say young people using those sites need to be aware of the dangers of meeting an unknown person in an unfamiliar place. Well, one such critic is Dr. Sasha Rakoff from Not Buying It, which is a campaign set up to try and stop sexual exploitation. I asked her how the websites actually work.
Well, they're supposedly dating sites, but the whole purpose of them is for very rich men to find very young, impoverished women, often students. Often they have 3 or 4 at the same time. And it's to provide company in exchange for gifts and an exotic lifestyle. So it doesn't explicitly say it's sex for money, but that's very often what it is and how it is seen, especially by these very rich, entitled men, many of whom are going to have Harvey Weinstein complexes.
So those women, because it generally is women, I think, who are going on the websites, are going on there specifically because they need the cash.
They need the cash. A lot of them are students, it turns out. So with, 10 years of austerity and rising student debt, you can imagine it's very tempting. And it's sold to them as they're the ones in control and they're the ones who are being empowered. These managers are going to spend thousands of pounds with them. And all they have to do is turn up. So, read into that what you will, but you can't be naive about this. And the fact is, there's very often sex expected. If you don't get it, I can't imagine the number of assaults and harassment that might be going on. And if you don't provide sex, then the gifts will start to be withdrawn. So the whole thing is very dangerous, exploitative, and just plain wrong.
Some years ago, I suppose decades ago, the term sugar daddy had a more glamorous feel to it, doesn't it? But this, from what you're implying, is a lot more sinister.
I don't know. I think sugar daddy always had a pretty sinister feel to it, but it's sugared up, literally, and always has been. I think that's always what these women have been for. They've always been there as sort of sexual fodder for very rich men.
Yeah, certainly. But of course, we are more liberated now and women want to be empowered. So, years ago, women were happy to be provided for, weren't they? And the idea of having a sugar daddy wasn't something that made anybody worry like this is making us worry.
Yeah, I don't think it's any more empowering now than it was then. It's a sign of the total lack of power between the sexes that these things exist and they're flourishing.
You say they are flourishing. You're saying that it's a big problem at the moment.
Yeah, it seems to be expanding here in the UK. I think it originally came from America, like a lot of not so good imports have. And it seems to be flourishing here.
So what would you say to women who are tempted by these websites because they are in this desperate situation that you've described?
Oh, don't do it, no matter how desperate you are, because there's a very high chance that you'll be forced or coerced into sex, and nothing is worth that. You can't put a price on that. If you're a university student, then hopefully you're going to make a better life for yourself anyway. You don't need this. And really, these sites should be shut down.
And they are prostitution sites by any other name?
Well, they've been described as posh prostitution. I mean, it's very hard to see the difference between this and an escort. And a lot of the arguments used to legitimize this are the same that are used for things like escort work or lap dancing, which is a form of prostitution. So, yeah, just stay clear. Look after yourself.
They are legal, aren't they? Banned in America, I think, but they are legal. So what are you calling for?
I don't think it should be legal. I mean, apart from anything else, you could probably say they're inciting prostitution and possibly profiteering off the prostitution of another. That's illegal. We can find other ways to ban them, even if they're not illegal under current law, because they're just so counter equalities. It's like Me Too hasn't happened. It's just ridiculous.
What's done in universities, do you know, to raise awareness of this kind of thing to women who might feel that they are going to go for this?
Well, unfortunately, what might be done, I don't know if anything's been done, but I think it was Sussex University. There's a recent hoo-ha over the fact that they're basically promoting prostitution there. So if anything was done by student unions, you can imagine it might actually be trying to promote it to young female students rather than warning them off there.
You think that student unions are promoting them?
I think they potentially could, because they're already promoting sex work or prostitution. So, yes.
In what way are they promoting sex work and prostitution?
It was in the press recently. So, Sussex University, there was a huge stall at Freshers Week all about for sex workers and supposedly how to stay safe, how to stay healthy. But it was all done in a very flippant manner and nothing other than a promotion, really, for prostitution, which some women in university do resort to.
Are you saying to call on this kind of resort is because of the financial situation that students are finding themselves in these days?
In part, yeah, definitely. You know, massive student loans, ridiculous amounts. It's hurting everyone, hurting university education. They've just become businesses now, hurting the rest of society because we can't get everyone who might need or should go to university being able to go because they can't afford it. And it's driving women to things like lap dancing. I think a third of lap dancers are students, and into outright prostitution or these sugar dating sites. It's just where there's poverty, exploitation creeps in, and that's what we're seeing here. We shouldn't have university fees, or they should be at a manageable level.
That's Dr. Sasha Rakoff from the Not Buying It campaign, a campaign to set up to try and stop sexual exploitation, talking about the rise in so-called sugar dating websites. And she blames it partly on the fact that many people who go to university now are finding themselves so impoverished, partly because of the raised fees for universities. If you've got anything to add on that,